YTPC, Aristopoulos here. I tried to do a video the other day. My first Yabo. But I've been working all night. And I was really exhausted. And there was a lot of starting and stopping and a lot of foggy headedness. And I ended up shooting most of the thing off camera. You couldn't even see what I was opening. It was a leather tobacco pouch, and the most intriguing thing about that was the pipe that came with it, which I have let go out. I saved a bunch of options into my Amazon list, and I forgot which one I'd gotten. And so it was actually a pretty surprising Yabo. I had forgotten that I had gotten one that had a pipe in it. And I'm pretty surprised with this. This is a good smoking pipe. It's actually better than both my Cobb and my Brago. Very impressed. But yeah, that video that I shot wound up being absolutely unusable. And I was rushing to do it because I had said in the intro that people should stick around long enough to see where I got the pretentious name Aristopoulos. So I was afraid that people were going to start to get upset. They had watched 4 videos and still no mention of the name. So let me go ahead and clear that up now. Years ago, I was on my way to work and I was scanning through the radio stations. And I ran across this religious network, and they were playing a sermon by a pastor by the name of Pastor Malcolm Wild. And he was doing a really, really good message. And what intrigued me so much about it was that how much detail he was going into. I mean, he was really breaking everything down. And getting into particularly the conversation between Jesus and Pontius Pilate. He went through the entire discussion and really did kind of a psychological breakdown of what was being said, how it was interpreted, and this, that, and the other. And it was just the most engrossing thing one of the most engrossing things I'd ever listened to. And I wound up calling and ordering that tape series, and the whole series was wonderful. But he started talking about Herod. And I don't know if his wife was Mesopotamian descent. I can't remember. Padre Piper would probably be able to fill in the blank on that. But he was afraid that his wife was going to use her Mesopotamian heritage to incite his 2 sons to rebel against him and take over the throne. And one of his sons' name was Aristobulus. He actually had a brother-in-law with the same name. Anyway, he ended up having both of those people murdered. He had the brother-in-law appointed to some kind of position, high position, and then at the very party that he threw in celebration of that promotion, had the guy murdered. And he was so afraid that his children were going to take over the throne that he had his wife and both of his kids murdered. But I had misheard how the name was pronounced. I didn't catch that it was Aristobulus. I thought the guy said his name was Aristopoulos. And it was on listening to it again that I realized that I had misheard how it was pronounced. But that name always stuck with me, and I always liked it. And I do a lot of hobby writing. and I've used that name a little bit in there. But in coming up with a name for the YouTube channel, I selected that name because I just think it's a great sounding name. So for anybody who watched the 4 videos that I have up, looking for an explanation of where that name came from, I apologize for that. I meant to jump on that a lot sooner than I actually did. But there you go. There's a little explanation of where that name came from. I'm a little late getting around to the video because we had some troubling news about my mother. She had a little episode here the last few days. She had to leave work early. Well, actually, it started that morning. Let me give you a little bit of background on my mom and dad. My parents in 2018 will have been married for 50 years. And so my dad not really catching on that there was a problem isn't too unusual, because over 50 years of marriage, he's learned that he's got his routine down. He stays in the kitchen until my mom gets up, and then he grabs his coffee and his paper, and he gets the hell out of Dodge. Because my mom's one of those people, she likes her me time in the morning. She don't want anybody around. She likes to unwind when she gets up in the morning, get her coffee, watch her morning shows, and eventually work her way around to getting to work. And she still works. She's been working the jewelry counter at Walmart for almost 20 years now. She had been a homemaker for most of her life. She, I guess it was probably maybe when I was about 8 or 9 that she left the workforce. Anyway, she re-entered the workforce almost 20 years ago, and she's been working in the counter at Walmart ever since then. But my dad noticed one morning that she was having some trouble working the microwave. But he didn't pay much attention to her. She figured she was having a bad day or wasn't fully awake. Because like I said, he's got his routine. He knows after 50 years of marriage to get up and get out of her way in the morning. So it's understandable that he wouldn't catch anything. But when you go to a job that you've been working at for almost 20 years, and you all of a sudden don't know how to open the register, you don't know how to do your opening paperwork, and you don't even know how to count out your drawer to make sure you got the right amount of money to start the day. I mean, wouldn't that clue you in that maybe an employee is having some problems that are a little extraordinary? But not only did these people not call the house to let us know that there was a problem, they let my mom get in the car and just drive off. And it just seems, I don't know. You would expect a little better. But then again, I understand that my mom can be a bit of a piece of work. And I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, because my mother, when my brother and I moved to Key West, she had been diagnosed with breast cancer before we left and didn't say a word to us because she didn't want to screw up our plans. Being the definition of a parent that doesn't want to be a bother. And so she let us move to Key West knowing that she had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, didn't say a word to us. And we get down there, and I'm talking to my sister, and my sister tells me, "Did you know that mom has breast cancer?" And that she had found out before we even left. And my brother and I are kind of looking at each other like, well, what the hell do we do? We go back? I mean, to go back after she let us move down here kind of seems like a slap in the face to her for sacrifice for nothing. So we talked to her and tried to get her side. But I mean, you talk about a surreal situation to be in, man. So it's quite possible that nobody at Walmart even saw this stuff happen with her. Maybe she just got there, realized she was over there by herself, and realized she couldn't. She was having trouble opening the register, doing her paperwork, and counting out her money. And maybe she just decided on her own that I'm gonna go ahead and go on home. I'm obviously out of it here. And it's quite possible that nobody at Walmart even saw any of this happen. So it's I don't want to be too quick to jump on Walmart over it. But it just seems awfully unusual that somebody could make a decision like that without having to go into too much explanation. Because if she's having trouble explaining, or if she's having trouble doing all these things, it would seem like she would have a little bit of trouble explaining why she just got to work and would have to go home. It just seems like there would have been something that would have clued them in. But I don't know. I wasn't there. But it turned out everything's fine. She came home. My dad called and said he was taking her to the hospital. She had, they said they think one of her blood vessels in her brain was leaking or something. And that was what caused it. But she's feeling much better and she's home now. But, sorry, I went out there. So, yeah. It's quite possible that nobody at Walmart was really aware of exactly what was going on. But when I spoke to my mother and asked her about it, her response was they were becoming a bunch of assholes. And my mother, being such a religious person and somebody that has defended Walmart for the past 20 years over just about everything, for her to suddenly take that tone about them leads me to believe, well, maybe they probably did know that quite a bit wasn't right and just watched her jump in and just drive off like that. And she usually takes her about 35 minutes to get home. My dad said it took her an hour and a half to drive home that day. So she's incredibly lucky that something tragic didn't happen to her, having driven both to work and then drove herself home. So, I don't know. She's okay now, so that's all that matters. But I tell you, I have a friend whose mother had, I think it was liver cancer. And she went in to have something done. And she had already had a good portion of her liver cut off. But this doctor was supposed to check and see if the cancer had come back. And she asked him right before they did the operation to make sure he checked and made sure that the cancer hadn't come back. And apparently he forgot. And it was just about a month or so after that they discovered that the cancer had come back. And they asked him about that. Oh, no, she asked him about it after she wanted to make sure before she left. He said, did you check and see if the cancer had come back? And he lied to her and told her that he had. And, of course, they found out about a month or so later that the cancer had indeed returned. And my friend and his brother and sister and even her husband, they all wanted to sue this doctor for not having said something to her. But that wasn't how she wanted to spend her last days. It was in some big legal fight, so they let it go. But it just seems like, once you get up there in age, that there's a lot of not caring about the elderly. Because I have a hard time believing that if it was somebody younger, that people just, their antennas just would have gone up. I mean, Christ, an 18-year-old that would have had those kinds of problems, they would have thought the guy was on drugs. He's something that couldn't do his job. And they probably would have told him to go home. They probably would have told that guy to go home. Maybe even fired him. I don't know. That seems pretty excessive to go through all that. But yeah, the point is that, when the people who are younger who have those kinds of problems, people's antenna just seem to go up about things like that a lot more than they do with the elderly. Because a lot of things happen to the elderly that you just can't see happening to people younger. Consequences wise. and whether or not people are just in tune to what's going on with him. It's a shame. Yeah, a lot of people end up spending their golden years not being taken seriously. But anyway, yeah, definitely wanted to get that video out there, explain the name, and give a little bit of explanation as to why it took me so long to get around to it. But yeah, I can't get over that Yabo. The whole thing off camera. But mostly I was just foggy-headed from working so late the night before. This is the first time I've really had a problem keeping this thing lit. That was one of the things that I like so much about it, is that it didn't seem to take much effort at all to keep a nice ember going. But yeah, really nice. Anyway, this is Aristobulus, and I hope you all can keep your eternal ember going. See you later.